18 seconds left. You're down by 3. The season's on the line. Everything you've worked for comes down to this one drive, this one moment, and everyone's watching. Last weekend, I watched 4 different teams face that exact scenario. 4 teams, 4 final drives, 4 moments when the clock was against them. They had one chance to get it right. And here's what I realized. The final 3 minutes don't care about your talent. They don't care about your preparation. They don't care about how good you were in the first quarter. The final 3 minutes reveal exactly who you are when there's no time left to figure it out. And that's not just true in football. It's true in your career, in your relationships, in the deal that's slipping away, in the quarter that's coming up short, in every moment when the pressure is on and the clock is ticking. So the question is, when your final 3 minutes come, and they will come, who are you going to be? Welcome back to Eyes Wide. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for checking out this latest episode of Eyes Wide, the podcast. And because we are in this season where the NFL and college football are king, I couldn't help but get pulled into the vortex of wanting to do another football-esque episode and show how football can have all of these parallels and correlations to life and business. And just hear me out for a second. I don't want you thinking, oh gosh, the last thing I want to do is listen to another football talk show. That is not what this is. This is not a football talk show. But I will say I am recording this episode Monday night, and the game is just wrapping up between the Steelers and the Texans. And the Steelers got completely shellacked at home. I think they've lost now 8 straight playoff games. And so it's not a good look. I would imagine this is Aaron Rodgers. I'm watching him right now just shake hands with everyone on the field. It's got to be bittersweet. I would imagine there's some, although it is Aaron Rodgers, so there probably isn't going to be any kind of a definitive announcement anytime soon with what his intentions are for the next season. But anyway, we are right in Super Wildcard Weekend, or at least that Super Wildcard Weekend just wrapped up with this game. And as I was watching these games, and it started, the college semifinals went on Thursday and Friday, and then the NFL was Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday night. And so it was a lot of football. And if you're not a football fan, I would imagine this weekend's a little weird because a lot of people are really going to be really into watching football, and it's probably sucking up a lot of people's bandwidth and focus and attention on the weekend. I watched the second half of Ole Miss Miami. I didn't really watch the game on Friday. And then most of the NFL games were amazing. And as I was watching a lot of these NFL games, I believe they broke a record, and I don't have the stats. I wish I could memorize the stats that I saw, but I think it was the most lead changes that took place in a playoff game. I believe they already broke the record just in their first playoff weekend. And for those of you that are fans or even just casual fans, that's a big deal. Whenever there's a lot of lead changes, it's a competitive game. Football is a very exciting game. That's why the Super Bowl is the biggest one-day event in the world. And it makes sense. People love football. But I started thinking as I watched these games, and it started when I was watching the game Thursday night. That game wasn't really exciting. Obviously, there's a lot of hoopla, but it just wasn't super exciting until the final 3 minutes for the most part. I mean, the quarterbacks just started slinging it. The offense just opened up. All of a sudden, they're scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, back and forth, back and forth. And that's what made the game so compelling. And I was having a conversation with a colleague. We talked about how, there's a lot of parallels you can draw from business with regard to that, because when you stop kind of just thinking about everything and playing cautiously, all of a sudden you start to put points on the board. You start to get wins, and it's something that you start to really think about. So let's kind of start to get into it, and why I wanted to talk about this, and why there's this idea that magic can happen when the pressure starts to mount, when all of this pressure starts to culminate, and there is a There's something that happens in certain people that are prepared, certain people that have been practicing for this moment. When the pressure comes on, they're able to elevate because the pressure can be very gripping. The pressure can be something that crushes so many people. But for those that have prepared, for those that are resilient, for those that know what the plan is, what the game plan is, what the business plan is, they're able to execute and rise above others. There's 3 games over the weekend in particular that I wanted to talk about, and it was the Bills, the Rams, and the Bears. And all 3 of these games were they were back and forth, and they came down to basically the last drive. And as I mentioned, I started thinking through this idea of what it means to be clutch, what it means to kind of step up, what it kind of means to have everything quiet down in these moments when there's all this hysteria going on, all this hoopla, and then just deliver. And sure, we're talking about football here, but it's not just football. If you're listening to this podcast, I would imagine that you are in the business world, likely the sales world. And at the close of every month, at the close of every quarter, you've got a clock on you. You've got things starting to press down on you in any type of business, no matter what business you're in. You come to the end of a month, you come to the end of a quarter, you have to show what that business was able to deliver, what that business was able to make, what that business was able to produce. It is crunch time. So sure, we're talking about football here, but the parallels here to business and life are just so perfectly blended. Let's talk about this. So I've never played college football. I've never been in the NFL, as crazy as that may sound. I've never been a football coach. But I do know what it's like to have to deliver at the end of a game, at the end of a month, at the end of a quarter. And it is a scramble. There's a lot going on, and it's not for the faint of heart. I'll share a story. When the company I was with went public. I mean, obviously, there was a lot of pressure just being in a startup world and needing to deliver, needing to show revenue. In the first 2 years, sure, you want to kind of beat what you've done before, and you want to deliver, you want to do good things, you want to show positive growth. But it all changes when the company goes public, and now you have all of these public investors and shareholders, and the game changes significantly. You start to come to an end of the quarter. There's a lot of eyes on you. Everyone wants to know how it's coming. Everyone's always asking for feedback. Everyone wants to always know, how are things shaping up. And if you were in a leadership position, you are at the mercy of what your field team and what your sales leaders are doing in their respective geographies to help you to deliver a number. And it doesn't always go as planned. Everyone's got the best intentions for the start of a quarter, and even getting through halfway through a quarter, you start to get to the end of that quarter, the end of the year, and there's a lot of oopses going on. Unfortunately, I'm not going to deliver what I said I was going to deliver. So you have to be able to manage all of these situations, all of these scenarios, making sure that if you're running a little light over here, you're going to be short in these geographies, that you're figuring out ways to make it up in these other geographies. And it is a scramble. It is a real-time rodeo. There is a lot going on, and it's not for everyone. Not everyone can handle that type of pressure. But I will say that the more that you do, the more that you prepare for this, the more times that you do it, and the more times that you have real understanding and a real knowledge of what is going on, what is taking place, what the likelihood of different outcomes are, the easier it gets to be able to process everything that is going on very quickly and have the game slow down for you. When I first got into the CRM business, for those of you that don't know, CRM is cardiac rhythm management, and it involves pacemakers and defibrillators and a few other things. But for the most part, it's about patients who need to have either a pacemaker to keep their heart beating or a defibrillator to stop their heart from going into too fast of a rhythm. The reps are in the cases with the doctors. You are involved. You are hands-on. You're programming the device. You have to be able to give real-time feedback to the surgeon putting the device in. There's a lot going on. You can't sleep on this. And the first, I don't even know for how long, the first few cases that you do, it seems like craziness. There's so much going on. It's all happening so fast. It's very difficult to be able to see all of the little things happening and anticipate things that you'll need. And I'll never forget the rep that I was working when I was first getting into the business. He made the comment that, he asked me if I ever played quarterback. And I said, well, not in college, but in high school, I messed around a little bit. He's like, all right, well, the position, things are happening fast. People are coming at you. They want to tackle you. And I said, yeah, I get all that. He goes, when you first start playing quarterback, just like when you first start doing this job, it's going to be very complicated, going to be happening very quickly. You're always going to feel like you don't know exactly what's happening. You're just in scramble mode and trying to keep up, trying to catch up. He said, what happens is the more familiarity you get with it, the more understanding that you start to have and you start to have more situational awareness. You start to anticipate things. You start to have an understanding of what's going to likely occur next. And that is when you can start to anticipate. That is when the game starts to slow down for you. And there is a difference. We talked about how those that are prepared, those that are ready to handle that type of pressure, that have gone through all of the reps and all of the practicing, when the pressure starts to mount the most, those final 3 minutes that we're talking about in this episode, certain people are able to elevate because they're not thinking about anything else. Now it's allowing just the free flow to occur. People can just get in that zone that they talk about and just let things operate. You're operating on pure instinct and awareness, and all of the preparation and practice that you've done prior to this moment is helping you to deliver when the lights are the brightest. And that's going to be the big separator in football, in life, in business. Those that have the ability to have situational awareness, have done things enough times to recognize different situations, different things that could be coming up, different problems that could arise, objections that can get in the way, little things, little details that can get in the way of deals getting done. The more times you do it, the more situational awareness you have, the more reps you put in, the more you start to galvanize yourself to this failure that I like to talk about, the more that you're setting yourself up for success because you know what winning looks like. You know how winning feels, and you can make it happen again and again and again. If you've never been there, it becomes very difficult because everything kind of feels new to you. You don't know how to anticipate. You don't know how to be ahead of it. You don't know how to call out coverages. You don't know how to identify free players and things of that nature. So there is a big difference. So most people, when you talk to the average person about this idea of pressure, the final 3 minutes, a lot of pressure, everything comes down to this. Most people will think that it's the pressure that will cause the panic. And there's a little bit of a paradox that goes along with that because the pressure doesn't create anything, okay? All the pressure is going to do is reveal what's already there. And I want you to think about it. That pressure does not create anything. Pressure is not creating the panic that occurs in some people when they start to feel that pressure because it's going to reveal what's already there. There's this idea for those of you that have been in sports, for those of you that have gone through any kind of a training, any kind of sales training, you'll know that there's a difference between just practicing and then game speed. Practice when you're going through something really slow and you're at half speed, it allows for a lot of people that are just getting by to still play in that game, to still join right along. The real differentiator comes when you move something to game speed, something to fast pace. And that is why elite athletes, elite business people, they become very in tune with just nailing things time and time again, but doing it very quickly. Last company I was with, we were bringing in big training classes, getting people up and running. They needed to learn a lot about cardiac system, cardiology in general. They needed to understand all of these very intricate facts and features and methodology, and then be able to deliver that to a doctor impactfully, get the doctor curious to learn more about the mechanisms of action of our device and our therapy and how it worked and how it can improve and how it can solve problems. And so it's one thing to go do the work on your own, to study hard and learn all these theories and learn all of this language and definitions. And there's a lot of people that really thought that they had it down. They did the work. They knew everything. If you gave them a test, a written test, they could give you the right responses. They'd be able to see subject matter and answer the question properly. However, when it came time to start doing things quickly, we would set people up in this circle. And we had a tennis ball. We would ask a question. We would throw the tennis ball and ask a question. So the person that caught the tennis ball would have a rapid fire question being asked to them right away. And so you didn't have a lot of time. You needed to be able to deliver something very quickly, succinctly, and effectively. And I will tell you, there were very few people during this exercise that did not fall apart. And they were supposed to fall apart. We wanted them to fall apart. Now, the people who didn't fall apart that early on in the process, they were different. They were likely the equivalent of your D1 college athletes, the creme de la creme. They're able to process information very quickly. They got monster grasps of information. Very few people were ever able to deliver like this. Most everyone else needed to see their limitations, have an understanding. Well, okay, maybe I understand this and I have a knowledge base, but I don't know how to hit it quickly, real time. I don't know how to operate in game speed yet. It's all happening very quickly. And I sure as heck don't know how to anticipate things and play quarterback, if you will. The game is still moving really fast. And you see this when game speed happens. I want to talk now about this idea called the preparation principle. And the reason I want to bring this up is because this gets back to what I was speaking to with a colleague about how it's amazing to see how things just start to open up when the pressure's on and you know you're running out of time and you need to make something happen. And when you get into that last 3 minutes of a game, the quarterback, the receiver, the running backs that are involved, your sales reps, your sales leaders, they're not just going to all of a sudden develop a new skill with the 3 minutes left, right? We talked about how that pressure isn't causing anything. What you're going to do is you're going to execute what has been practiced 1,000 times once you can get out of your own head. And that is the beauty of having put in the time previously. That is why you can't just wing it in life. You can't just wing it in business. You can't just wing it on the sports field. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to know what you're doing, because there will be a moment in time where what you do matters. What you do in that moment matters and affects the outcome of something. And if you don't know what's going on, if you're not prepared, if you haven't done those reps 1,000 times, you're just going to flounder. That's the people who fold. Those are the people who fail because they didn't put the work in ahead of time. So you're not winning something in the final 3 minutes. You're not winning something in the final week of a month or the last few weeks of a quarter. It's all been working up to this. That is why it's so important to talk about find your tomorrow in today. What are you doing today that's going to shape the outcome of your future? That's what it's all about. What work are you putting in today that's getting you prepared to handle the difficult things tomorrow? To handle the pressure of your final 3 minutes. That's what this podcast is all about. That's what my whole mindset is all about. You can't fake it when the clock is ticking. And we talk about this idea of gut and instinct. And too many people want to just slough this one off. They wanted to say, well, this individual, maybe they get lucky. Or they don't really know what they're talking about because they kind of just shoot from the hip, and some things they nail, some things they don't. But the truth of the matter is, and I was fortunate enough to live this, is that when you become amazingly ingrained with a business, with a game, with any kind of a process, even a hobby, if you will, when you become very in tune with all the interworkings that are going on with whatever it is we're talking about, whether it is your company, your business, whether it is your specialty, you start to anticipate things more than 99% of others. And that is where gut and instinct starts to get developed. And I will tell you that when gut and instinct start to kick in and gut and instinct become right time and time again, those are going to be the individuals. You will become the individual that starts to deliver in these clutch moments, because gut and instinct, they're not fugazi, okay? Someone who has gut and instinct has been walking the walk and talking the talk for a very long time, and without even thinking about it, without even seeing everything or hearing everything, they already know. They've got this. And whether you're Josh Allen or Carson Beck on Miami, you know what's going to happen, and you know how to overcome, and you know how to deliver, and you know how to win. Because what we hope in life is that when time becomes short, when we have our final 3 minutes in making something that truly has impact or something that is truly profound in our lives, we hope that everything is slowing down, that everything is becoming clear. Because in those moments, you cannot overthink. You cannot second guess. All you can do in those moments is just execute. Execute and deliver. And the best way to nail it in those times is to be prepared, is to do the work again and again and again, is to understand the difference between practice and game speed. You just execute. You just execute. You see, the beauty of those final 3 minutes is that it forces us to focus on exactly what matters. Everything else becomes noise, flotsam and jetsam, just crap noise. And unfortunately, and it's okay, this happens, but it is unfortunate that when you do have a lot of time in front of you and the pressure's not on, you're not quite as clear. Even if you are prepared, you're still kind of thinking about a whole bunch of different things. This final 3 minutes, you're focused. It's all that matters. And it is why in the final 3 minutes of games, you start to see people score a lot of touchdowns. You start to see a lot of people score a lot of baskets. This final 3 minutes, this final 3 days of a quarter, you start to see people close a lot of business because it starts to really, really matter in those moments, and you want to make it happen. So let's use this, and I'm not gonna go on for much longer. You guys know the deal. My solo missions, when the coffee cup is empty, I'm out of material. And so I don't like to keep you guys much longer than 30 minutes. And I know we're probably coming up on that right about now. But I want you to start thinking through some things. Again, I wish I could do this live. This is recorded, but I want this to be as interactive as possible. I'd love you to start thinking about a couple things. Where are you in your life right now? Where are you in your career? What's that clock ticking on? Is a quarter coming up short? Is there a relationship that's slipping away? Is that goal you set in January, those resolutions, are they already dying? Are you putting off a career move? You know, one of the most impactful decisions you can make is being able to recognize and accept mentally that you are in the final 3 minutes of an important decision, of an important game. You know, my daughter started playing flag football. Never played before, has had no interest. And I, as someone who adores football, always been trying to get her into playing flag football. Finally, she signed up, and she's going to her first game. And she knows nothing about flag football. Nothing. Okay? And she started getting really nervous on the way to the game. Really nervous. And I was thrilled that she was nervous, because I could actually tell that it meant something to her. Because I've seen her do other things where she wasn't nervous, and I could tell that it didn't really matter to her. And I let her know that those nerves that you're feeling, that's a good thing. It's actually a great thing. It, A, lets you know that you're a human being and you're alive. But two, it lets you know that you're doing something that you actually care about and matters. And I told her that, you know, along your life, you hope for these moments, these opportunities, where you get these butterflies, where you feel nervous, because it allows you to know that you're doing something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you're doing something, or you're about to embark on something that you really care about, that matters to you, that there's a difference between succeeding at it and failing at it. That is how you know you're alive. And that is how you know that you're starting to live a goal-oriented life where you actually want to do more. So embrace those butterflies. The last piece I wanted to talk about before I wrap this up is this idea of time. We talked a lot about this idea of the final 3 minutes. A lot can go on in the final 3 minutes of a football game. And those final 3 minutes can be analogous to whatever it is you have going on in your life, your work, your relationships. And we always think that we just need a little bit more time. If we just had a little bit more time, I'd be able to get this done. If we just had a little bit more time, I would have been able to deliver this quarter. If I just had a little bit more time, I would have been able to finish this project, and it would have been great. If I just had one more week, one more month. But here's the truth. You don't need more time. You need to learn how to execute with the time you have. That's the takeaway here. The teams that played this past weekend, those extraordinary teams that got it done, they didn't have extra time. Nobody does. They got the same 3 minutes that every other team gets. They just happen to execute better than those other 3 teams. All right, did we get it all? I don't know. So what's the takeaway from all of this? What does it mean for you right now in your life? You see, the way I look at it, that clock is always ticking for all of us. The final 3 minutes aren't just a metaphor for football. They're a metaphor for our lives, our careers, our relationships. We're all playing against a clock, whether we acknowledge it or not. And when your back is against the wall, when the pressure is on, you won't magically rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. Your true character, the one that you've been building every single day, that is what will be revealed in the final 3 minutes. Your final 3 minutes. And maybe you're in your final 3 minutes right now. Maybe it's that project you're falling behind schedule, or the sales quarter that's looking grim. Maybe it's the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. That's your game. That's your clock. And you have a choice. You can let the pressure crush you. You can look at the clock. You can feel the fear and fold. You can tell yourself, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. You can blame all the circumstances, have all of the excuses, or you can take full ownership and execute. You can get laser focused and you can quiet the noise. You can look at the situation with clear eyes and ask yourself one simple question. What's the next play? Not the whole drive, not the whole game, just that next play. Maybe that next play is your next email. Maybe it's your next sales call. Or maybe it's just your next step in getting a project done. So here's my challenge to each of you this week. Don't just listen to this and move on. I want you to identify your final 3 minutes. I want you to name it. Write it down. Look it right in the eye. And then I want you to do one thing. Just one. I want you to execute that next play. Do not overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just move. Because the truth is, you don't need more time. What you need is more focus. You need more courage. You need to execute with the time that you do have. Because remember, this pressure that we're talking about, I want you to understand that pressure does not create character. I know that's what people think, but that's not the truth. Pressure does not create character. It reveals it. The person you are in the final 3 minutes is the person you've been building all along. So build a person you can be proud of. Build a person who executes. That is how you crush it in your final 3 minutes. Now, I want to thank each and every one of you that have checked this out and have been joining along in the Eyes Wide podcast journey. For those of you that have made it this far, I hope you're getting something out of this. If you are, please do me a favor and subscribe so that you do not miss future episodes as they drop. Also, please do me a favor and share this with a friend. That is the way that a podcast gets noticed and has continued to be able to get produced. I'm going to go ahead and close this the way I close every single episode, and reminding each and every one of you that this life is what you make of it. The future you is waiting patiently to meet the current you. Continue to work to find your tomorrow in today and keep the promises you make to yourself. Until we meet again, eyes wide, see everything. Goodbye.